people are not getting benefits of what a normal society should get in Nigeria. That's why. When you get the normal benefits, then all these things we call corruption will become networking, favor. It will become, grace. People will give it these good names. And then
so even grace. Wow, that's interesting.
It comes and covers it.
If a guy steals from the bank with a gun, which they give him death. When somebody steals the whole future of the whole country with a pen, they don't give him anything. They just say, okay, well, you don't give anything. In fact, they even give him tested title and all that.
Sorry, I just wanted to make a comment. He said that when somebody steals with a pen, then they go and give him chieftaincy title. Is it the government that gives somebody chieftaincy title? It's not those in the top that give them chieftaincy title. It is those in the village that give people chieftaincy title.
But in Nigeria, there's this thing that that person is a Yoruba person, or I'm Yoruba, or that person is going to really take your that guy is from Igba, or that guy is from Anambra, is from Nnewi, whatever. So I think another issue we have to look at is also the cultural piece. So there are three legs to this. There's the top, there's the bottom. There is also Nigeria being a very cultural rich country.
People use this spiritual term to cover for their wrong attitudes, and that's because this thing is prevalent everywhere. But the problem with our own end is that there is no end result. When we're not seeing it's like saying you have a permanent secretary who is doing nothing. You're not seeing the output of that permanent secretary from that.
There's no impact.
You're not seeing any result. If you are seeing results, all these things we call corruption, I believe, will vanish away.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Lost Lagosians, a podcast covering topics about Lagosians, Nigerians, and Africans in diaspora, as well as trending topics and challenges of Lagosians in diaspora. I'm your host, Brodda Mike. In this week's episode, we have 5 guests, all original Lagosians, but in different parts of the world. Majority of them actually have dual citizenships. They grew up in Lagos and they've moved out of Nigeria. So they have a very rich experience of dealing with the subject matter for today. We've got a British citizen, a Canadian citizen, and a couple of American citizens today. And we also have someone who just got back from Austria. So really, really fascinating topic. I want to apologize in advance about the audio quality. It's not easy as Zoom would make you believe, getting a group of guys together to have a really, really long conversation. So I want to apologize in advance for the audio quality, but feel free to sit back and enjoy, and we'll talk to you at the end of the podcast. Thanks, and hope you enjoy it. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Lost Lagosians. Got with me some really good friends today. The issue at hand is just kind of wanting to talk about corruption in Nigeria. So personally, I've had a lot of experiences with corruption. One experience I had recently was coming back from Nigeria to the US of A, and I had to go through through Murtala airports. And the guy at the gate was blocking people from getting into the airport. Primarily, he was asking for tips. So people had their luggages and everything. But if you wanted your family to go with you, if you wanted your family to accompany you, you had to pay. You had to pay him to allow your family to get in. So it was only allowing people with passports into the airport, which made no sense, because if you have your family, you need emotional support, moral support. You also need them to help you with their luggages and stuff. But in this particular case, people were paying to get into the airport. And I, for one, felt that was not appropriate. I challenged the guy, but my sister ended up, bribing the guy in order for her to get in, as she wasn't flying. So that kind of issue is something that's, it's kind of minuscule, but it's also corruption. And that's something we see everywhere we go in Nigeria. So I'm wondering if any of you guys had any experience or thoughts on the issue.
Thank you very much. I think I'll make my own comment here. I remember when I was traveling to Austria in August, I had to bribe the immigration officers to be able to scan or stamp my passport out, so that's indicate that I'm going out of Nigeria. I had to give them each one. I had to give them 1,000. Some of my colleagues had to give them 2,000. So when we were coming back, those same immigration guys, because we had the 1 week trip there. When we came back, those same immigration guys were asking us for money again. So one of my colleagues now told them, I said, you, I gave you 2,000 naira. Last week, they said, yes, your face is familiar. So why are you asking for that one again? They said, oh, God, the hustle just pass. You understand me? Then I had an issue with the Nigerian staff of Turkish Airlines. The Nigerian staff of Turkish Airlines, there was a female girl that, these ladies that normally check your check your tag, the tag of your bag and your body pass to make sure they correspond before they allow you pass. The girl was always asking everybody in front of her, oh God, what you bring for us? As if I went to work for you abroad and I'm coming to give you. I mean, it's so disgusting that we have such kind of situation within our system. And it has become worse recently because things have become more expensive and people still need to patch, you understand, to make ends meet. They have to patch, they have to patch corners because things are tearing. The fabric is tearing, so they have to patch, just to try how they can patch things. So it is that bad that, even in a presidential airport, you can have such kind of things going on. And there was an incident that occurred, a corruption incident that occurred, I think it was filmed, it was on Instagram, and then FAN came out and said that they were going to ban their staff, they're going to ban their staff that were caught in that incident, that bribery incident, and every other personnel in the air that operates in the airport that is engaged in corruption. I don't think they have done anything serious about it.
You know what? When you started, it seems the real face of corruption is actually people like us. That's the annoying side of the things. It really doesn't boil down to the government. It's people like us. That's the annoying thing. If we drill it down, we find out the people who are actually doing these corrupt practices, they are our friends. They are friends. The worst case is that they are 2 friends away. So the real face of the corruption is us. It's us.
Can I share something before I start? Yeah, I'm here in Houston, Texas, and I will share a story. There's this state. There's a state. I'm not going to mention the state. The state, one of the states in Nigeria, where the judicial committee were now asking for money. They were asking for a raise. So they threatened to go on strike. They were asking for money and threatened to go on strike. So. And they said they're going to go on strike, and the state governor went to the court to see the members of the people working in the court. And he saw that they were using very expensive cars. When he saw that they were using very expensive cars, he now left, and they wanted a raise. So he now called the meeting of all the people that were the heads of the people protesting and threatening to strike. He now said, you know what, you guys, I see your cars outside. I know you did not buy it from your salary. I said, you know what, I will give you the raise, but I'll block all the avenues where you are stealing this money. You choose, should I leave it the way you are going and you're stealing, or you want the raise? They said, okay, sir, we want. He said they don't want the raise that for now, that they should just keep, the man should suspend the raise. So the man now went out and told the people, you know what, they have already listened to us, and they said they will put it, they will work on it. So you can see the dynamics now. The dynamics is it flows from the head down. I'm going to quickly say, I don't want to take too much of time. We have a project in Colombia, and in Colombia, when the government gives you the deadline to finish a project, there is no wiggle room. There's no wiggle room at all. You either finish the project or you are out. You lose all your money, all your deposits. So, but then when you now go and meet somebody for help, somebody in government, please, I need you for help. The guy is afraid to help you. He doesn't. Everybody works by they work by the books. They follow the books. And why is that? Why is it that people are afraid? Even the small people are afraid to skirt the law, to do corruption. It's because they passed the law. They said even when you are 80 years old and you have retired, probably 20 or 30 years ago, and they find out that a decision you made created a mistake, that that had that looked like corruption, even at that age, 20 years after you have left the department, 30 years after you have left the department, you're still going to go to jail. So they've been doing it. They see somebody that took bribe and did something that was not supposed to be done. Even 20 years later, they take him to jail. So now everybody says, oh, no, nobody's ready to do anything. They just follow the books. So I think if we can do that in Nigeria, we'll see a lot of change.
Thank you. You know what? For me, I think the corruption itself is the people inside the system. And someone was passing a WhatsApp story around saying that that he got to Amsterdam, and in Amsterdam they told them that all the Nigerians that are currently coming with the COVID result coming from Nigeria will not be accepted. Why? They said you people pay people to get COVID results. I mean, how on earth can a nation be thought to be doing such a thing? Health crisis. You get money to give COVID a positive, a negative COVID test. Meanwhile, the person didn't do the test. How on earth would you sleep at night and say, I give somebody who is probably positive to COVID a clearance with maybe 200 naira or 500 naira? What did they do us? You don't even fear that. You don't even fear to die.
Yeah, I know a few people. I know a few people that actually did that, and I'm ashamed to report that, because when they go to the airport, they had to fly, and they just bought the COVID test. So that's something that it's not unheard of. I mean, it's shame, but it's shameful. But I wonder if other people had thoughts on this matter.
Yes. My name is Brodda Yusuf. What I just want to say is corruption is not only in Nigeria. Corruption happens everywhere.
Yeah, but Yusuf has spoken well. Now, to be quite honest, corruption is everywhere in the world, not just only Nigeria. I mean, we see it in almost every nation, to be quite honest. Even in employment, I mean, people call it different names. I mean, you can call, in Nigeria, we call it man no man. Here, you call it networking. I mean, you have a friend somewhere, you don't know anything, you are numbskull, even in the US or in Canada or in the UK, the person is numbskull, he knows nothing, but he has a friend who is in the system, and then, the friend just his name in, and then he gets the job. They call it networking. That's not networking, that's man no man. That's what we call man no man.
I take an exception to that because I think what you are trying to talk about is nepotism. A broader nepotism. I mean, nepotism is not corruption, and corruption is not nepotism. Or is nepotism corruption based on what you just said?
Nepotism is corruption.
Nepotism is corruption. Nepotism is corruption. Nepotism is favoring somebody who does not deserve a position over somebody who deserves the position.
How about cronism? Cronism.
See, whatever name you want to call it.
No, cronism is, you and your...
Call it cronism.
Cronism, you and your cronism.
I understand. No, that's cronism might be a little bit different. But, what this thing that we call in Nigeria, we say that I got favor. Favor. You see, that's what they call favor. It's corruption, no? Because what we are having in Nigeria, the problem we have in Nigeria now is that we have people who do not, they say, God gave me what I did not deserve. A position I did not deserve, God gave me. And now we have people who are in positions that they do not deserve. They don't know anything. They are messing up the system.
Oh, yes. I mean, you come into a system and you struggle hard to try and get in, and then we are told that you're not qualified enough. But then you see people who are far less qualified, but that they have links. Maybe you are probably neighbors, or maybe they are of the same ethnic group, and then you expect me to believe that's not corruption. That's corruption. That is a man no man. I mean, a typical case in Nigeria where you come by, you have a friend whose father works as the MD of a company, and because your friend, his father owns the company, you just tell your friend tells the dad, and the dad just hook you up in right away. And then even though you're a numbskull, as in real numbskull, and the guys who have struggled and worked so hard at school, they're like, how did he get in? And then you use the word, it's networking. But in Nigeria, we call it man no man. I mean, who is your father? That's who be your papa.
And that is really, really common here, just that no one knows about it, like countless jobs that are advertised, but they already know who the heir to the throne is, you know.
Absolutely.
So my question is it the prevalence that is the matter? The prevalence is okay, it's more prevalent or it's more common. Is that what the issue is?
Well, I won't say the prevalence or whether it's common. I think it's the end result that is the problem here. And when I say end results, people are not getting benefits of what a normal society should get in Nigeria. That's why. When you get the normal benefits, then all these things we call corruption will become networking, favor. It will become, grace. People will give it these good names. And then
so even grace. That's interesting.
It comes and covers it. However, we must separate. There is the grace of God on people's lives, and that's a given. But people actually know what they did to get certain things. And then, somebody stealing money and buying gifts for the church, and it says, and it comes out to give testimony, says, the grace of God where I'm working. Which grace? You stole the money. So I'm not saying this is the grace. No. The grace of God exists in our lives. However, people use these spiritual terms to cover for their wrong attitudes, and that's because just like what brother James or who I can't remember who the brother was that came, or brother Yusuf. This thing is prevalent everywhere, but the problem with our own end is that there is no end result. When we're not seeing it's like saying you have a permanent secretary who is doing nothing. You're not seeing the output of that permanent secretary from that.
There's no impact.
You're not seeing any result. If you are seeing results, all these things we call corruption, I believe, will vanish away. Because everyone is corrupt. Corruption is inherent in almost everybody except, you're a believer. Every other person is technically corrupt. Why would you see somebody, look at this case of a man who has a wife, and absolutely, a man who has a wife. Why do you have adultery? Even people in this part of the world, in Western world, in the UK, in Canada. They still have adultery every day. Adultery is corruption too, because your eyes are everywhere. Pew, 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 pew. Right? It's corruption. But because they are having end result on basic amenities in the countries, that's why all areas of corruption are wiped away from being corrupt. You can easily say this is not corruption. But because people are not having the basic necessities in Nigeria, then we can actually generalize everything to corruption. That's where the problem is coming from.
I don't agree that adultery is corruption, though.
That's corruption of the highest order.
Because corruption in this context is...
It depends. Like, how do you define corruption? Like, how do you paying something in return or exchange for something that you're not qualified for example? Yeah. So think about it. Adultery could also be used in exchange for something else, So in a way,
in that case, anything can be adultery then, and adultery can be anything, and corruption can be anything.
Well, I think the context is this: corruption is everywhere in the world. That's where I'm going. It's everywhere in the world.
I agree.
People people give things to get something when they should not get it.
Something they don't deserve.
Absolutely. There are scenarios where we have top CEOs, top female CEOs. Well, that happens a lot in Nigeria. Top female CEOs who find their way to the top and they give it whatever name. That's corruption as well. That's adultery in another line. You give something to get something. But the key word here is this: corruption is everywhere in the world. However, in the Western world, they have basic amenity results. But in Nigeria, we are not seeing any basic amenity results. Let me give you a classical example.
Okay.
We had a governor in Lagos State many years ago, a military governor, Buba Marwa.
Oh yeah, I know Marwa.
Buba Marwa was doing a lot of good things in Lagos State. However, information got to us that he was also having his own court at the back door. But because he was delivering good results, nobody saw the back court he was having. So
we looked away.
Technically, Buba was not corrupt.
I understand what you're saying. So what you are saying, to kind of put a name to it, is that when somebody gets something that they don't deserve or something they didn't earn, in exchange, an exchange has to be made. Because with the case of grace, maybe you didn't do an exchange. There has to be a transaction. So corruption, in a way, if we have to define this technically, is transactional based, in the sense that I'm going to influence or exchange something as part of a transaction, conscious, subconscious, knowing or unknowingly, in an exchange for something I don't really qualify for, something I don't get. That's one phase of it. Then the other phase of the definition is that you are not focused on the primary, basic, fundamental amenities, which makes corruption more prevalent or more visible. So if you're able to do one of the two, they are not mutually exclusive. You can do one of the two, then there's no corruption in a way. So in the West, if you can provide power, provide water, provide good roads, provide health benefits, you can still be doing all those exchanges and those networking or man no man, but we won't pay attention to it because the people just want basic amenities. Give us basic amenities. Go ahead.
Sorry, I don't agree. I don't agree with that because corruption happens in layers. The corruption in those countries, because there is somebody they are able to make example of people that are corrupt. That's why people are afraid. There is a consequence for being corrupt. You see, when you say you can be corrupt, but just provide something for somebody, provide amenities. It doesn't matter how time before it degenerates into something. It has to be zero
wow, sorry.
tolerance for corruption.
Can you turn your video?
Because
can you turn your video off?
Human beings don't
turn your video off. It's using your bandwidth. You'll be clearer.
Sorry.
Yeah, but go ahead with your point.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I said okay. So I said there has to be zero tolerance for corruption at all. You know, just because you are free to be corrupt. I was talking about basic amenities, basic needs of the people. That's not acceptable because.
Okay, I think we lost.
We lost him there.
I think we lost. But I think I know what his point is. He's trying to say that corruption is not providing basic amenities and then taking your back cut. He's right. I mean, doing that is still corruption.
In country like America, no matter how big you are, even though there is corruption there, but they hide it. They do a lot more to hide being caught. They do a lot more to be. But in Nigeria, they don't do enough. You don't even do anything to hide it.
Yeah,
you don't do anything to hide it.
But that means they are still corrupt too. That means they are still corrupt, but they are just very clean corrupt. Okay, let's put it this way: in Nigeria, our senators will probably go and collect money in cash. Ghana must go back. Mm-hmm. But in the US, they call it lobbying. In other words, the companies will come, give you a contract or give your representative a contract so that you influence the outcome of a bill that will make that company richer. In other words, that company is bribing you indirectly. They call it lobbying. And lobbyists are potential corrupt root causes, but then everybody talks a blind eye to that.
So here's what I'm hearing. If we can, I don't want to say legalize because I don't think that's the right word. Well, if we can legalize a practice, i.e., corruption, it becomes no longer corruption. So if we can legalize lobbying, it's not corruption anymore because it's lobbying. Is that what you're saying?
I agree. That's true. I agree.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's what's happening. Lobbying has been characterized like you are just influencing the decision, but you're influencing it to someone or a company, a representative to make more money, and that's why American politicians too will fight hard to become a senator or a House of Rep. They know what they're going to get in return. I mean, even though in Nigeria theirs is too open. I mean, they can even steal your own car and tell it's their car in front of you. So that's a blatant corrupt people. But in other parts of the world, there is corruption. However, they play the game very well.
Yeah. So what I wanted to say real quick is that
we were trying to compare the US to Nigeria, but I want us to know that Nigeria is a different case entirely. You know, so when you're talking about corruption in the US, corruption in Colombia, corruption there, Nigeria case is different. Because Nigeria, the corruption is from the top, flowing from the top down. So it's difficult, very, very, very difficult to eradicate. Because why? It's from the top. So what do you expect from the people that are down there when the top is dead, corrupt? You understand? So Nigeria case is very, very different from, all these other, you're talking about the US, they are doing stuff, social amenities and that. Nigeria, they're not sent you.
Anyway, hello, may I make a comment, please? I seem to disagree with.
Absolutely.
Although he's correct in his way,
thank you.
But I want him to look at it from a different perspective. I think that's what I should say. Let me look at it from a different perspective. I think the problem is from the people. we have a people that loves corruption because the leaders come out of the people. Now we practice religions, two religions in Nigeria that offer mercy. When you pray to God, God forgives you. And that leaves a room for so many much manipulations. The Muslim man, when he goes and steals money, he does this ablution and he prays and he believes God has forgiven him. The Christian person, when he goes to church, after he has stolen money, what he does is that he prays to God and asks God to forgive him, and he believes that God has forgiven him. So we have, belief systems that unknowingly and not intended, and he will pay tithe or what they call there's one word they call it this thing, something seed. They call it tremendous seed or something of that nature. You give a tremendous seed to the Lord. So when you now give, there's one particular word as well. I will remember it later. You now give it to, the church. You understand me? As if it's like you're paying it. Either you're paying for you're paying for your sins. At least I use part of the money to do something for God. So let it look as if, okay, that at least when you give a part of it, for a holy cause, the remaining part comes holy. Then you can now begin to hide it and spend money. So the point there is that these belief systems, at the end of the day, have issues. And they have created a kind of gap subconsciously in us that we believe we can get away with anything we want to get away with. And afterwards, we go to church on Sundays, and then we go and pray, and then we thank God, and then we tell God to forgive our sins, and then we come back on Monday to continue to sign papers, to continue to change numbers, to change figures and everything in the office. So it starts from the people.
What I'm just going to say is, if you walk into any office in Nigeria, even if it is private office or a private company or a government office, do you think if you want to collect what you are entitled to, you will collect it without paying a bribe today? No. But that's not the government. That's the people. The people who you are going to talk to. And these same people also know that if they go to another office, they need to pay bribe there. So it's the people
It's still from the top.
I know, but the top is made up of the people that were once at the bottom. The people at the bottom rose to the top.
No, it's not all. It's not all. It's not in all cases. Where you see people from the bottom go, they go up. At times, you just see people from nowhere, they are on the top. Yes. So if you're saying the church, this happened, it's still because there was a time in Lagos State, Fashola regime. This guy gave this law that the ranks should be just 1 year instead of 2 years or 3 years that some of these house download. Yeah, you understand? At the end of the day, what happened? Because the order was from the top, everybody, even till date, they're still following it. You understand? As I remember, during Abacha regime, there was a time, even to the, a cup of, a derica of rice, Abacha said, this thing is this amount. Everybody followed. Why? It's from the top. You understand? So in here now, when you see people acting, they can easily go to the top. Baba, see, this person, they fight also. What we make this thing happen. From the top, they will give order. So who is that person at the bottom there that will say no? It's not possible. So the problem, the corruption with Nigeria is from the top and can be treated from the top, not the people.
Okay, so I think the answer is probably somewhere in the middle, yeah. So it goes back to the point about amenities and stuff like that. That's the first. So I'll just say two things here. So it's easier for someone in the West, like the ordinary man. So when you say the top to the bottom, it's easier for people at the so-called bottom to say no to temptations if they are living a good life. They've got everything they need. They don't need someone to give them, $10, for example, in order to do, like just chicken change, really, to do something that they wouldn't normally or they're not allowed to do. Then the second aspect is this. If the laws are in place, yeah, and those laws are being enforced by the people at the top, it makes it more difficult to practice corruption in court, or it makes it more difficult to practice that in the open, So there was someone giving an example of people in the West naming like so-called corrupt practices in places like Nigeria, like giving them really fancy names, because why do they get away with that? Because in a way, it's what they're doing, they've made it legal, yeah. But then they also clearly draw a line. And if you cross this line, you will be punished in public. So that makes it more difficult for people who will still, practice or take part in corrupt practices to do that in public. That's why the corruption you see in the West is not as obvious or blatant as what you see in a place like Nigeria, because you know that if you do certain things, and you're found out, they'll make an example of you.
I think that's a good way to solve the problem. We should focus more now on how do we solve this problem. And I think number one is people should be able to live. People should have a living wage. When they said UN defined it defined growth. I think
poverty
growth or development
and development.
In reference to the well-being of people. When you say by our country is rich, it's not the oil you have, it's the well-being of your people. Countries, and especially the country, the best well-being index of people. So if the country can if the leadership can look at it from that place, okay, you know what, let these, we're not saying that they should be, people don't want to be, not everyone wants to be rich. People just want access, like food, water, roads, and everything. Those things, just put it in place. And number two, if the laws are already in place, most of these laws that can fight corruption are already in place in Nigeria, because most of when we got the independence, they just took the American laws and just the American laws and some British one, they mixed it together and just created our constitution. They created it from both the mixture of like American and the British laws. So if you look at it, those laws, a lot of those corruption laws are there. But when you don't have a very stiff consequence for the corruption, if a guy steals from the bank with a gun, which they give him death. But when somebody steals the whole future of the whole country with a pen, they don't give him anything. They just say, okay, well, you don't give him anything. In fact, they even give it to the and all that.
Sorry, I just wanted to make a comment concerning what he said. He said that when somebody steals with a pen, then they go and give him chieftaincy title. Is it the government that gives somebody chieftaincy title? It's not those in the top that give them chieftaincy title. It is those in the village that give people chieftaincy title. It is the village people that will call you and say, come, you village, you have stolen enough. You have money now. Let us give you chieftaincy title. And that is the truth. So as to fortify you, so that nobody can just intimidate you anyhow. That is what we're talking about. So it's not only a leadership problem. Yes, we have a leadership problem, corruption coming from up. It's also coming from down. And the thing that we need right now is, what we need, we lack regulation in Nigeria. Proper regulation. In a country that doesn't have good regulation and cannot trust its regulators to do the job, you understand me, of regulation, we have a problem. What do I mean by regulation? The police system in Nigeria is supposed to be, it's a regulatory system. You understand me? But unfortunately, they are even into corruption more than even those. Because you will see somebody, they will arrest the person, and afterwards you see the person is released on whose order.
I have a very short summary to put this thing in place. I have a friend, or I have a mentor where I studied for my undergrad. My mentor had a cousin or a nephew who participated in the exam malpractice. And my mentor, who happened to be a professor, was the chairman of the committee that sits to people who are part of the exam.
I know you're talking about the ethics.
The ethics, yes, committee. And
academic ethics, or whatever.
They were all in the room in the conference room, waiting for the next person to come in to say who
what's their matter.
Exam malpractice. When the chairman looked at the next name and found out that the name was his nephew,
name.
He looked at the members of the board and said, "I have something to say. The next person coming in is my nephew, and I don't think I should be here to chair this occasion, so that I am not seen as biased."
Conflict of interest.
Absolutely. And very quickly, he absorbed himself from being the chairman for just that single setting and walked out. And then the young man came in, and of course he was found guilty. Now the young man can go about and keep saying that, oh, my uncle was the one that made sure they resuscitated me. But this is part of what we're talking about, corruption from the bottom. Tell me, if the chairman can abscond himself, excuse himself from deliberating on such a matter, why would any member as well try such a thing? And that's where we also talk about corruption from the top, because the top has laid the foundation. So really, it's a combination of the both, to be quite honest, the top and the bottom.
Yeah, let me say one thing real quick as we're wrapping this down. What I want to say real quick is that in the West, for example, they do not have that loyalty to their tribes or loyalty to their ethnic groups. So in other words, if you get in trouble, I don't know if it's a Russian that I'm going to meet. It might be somebody from Canada or wherever, or a German guy. But in Nigeria, there's this thing that, that person is a Yoruba person, or I'm Yoruba, or that person is going to really take care of, that guy is from Igba, or that guy is from Anambra, is from Nnewi, whatever. So I think another issue we have to look at is also the cultural piece. So there are three legs to this. There's the top, there's the bottom. There is also Nigeria being a very cultural rich country. We tend to have allegiances to that culture. For example, somebody get caught by EFCC, and they let him go because an Hausa man, for example. And the people in the EFCC, they're all Hausas. They know him from his tribe. So I think that's another aspect that we have to consider. So I guess, that does it for us on this episode. Thank you all for listening, and hopefully you can stay tuned and you hear more of the guys. It's been fun, and we'll talk to you in the next one.
Wow, that was quite an interesting episode. It got heated there for a minute. Ultimately, I think what this episode highlights is the fact that corruption has a lot of definitions, and it actually touches a lot of our lives in different ways. Corruption also has a lot of faces. It's also universal. It's not limited to Nigeria or to Africa alone. And we at the bottom or we at the top, regardless of where you are, top or bottom, can make a difference. So ultimately, it was a great conversation, just chatting with the guys. I really had fun, and I hope you did as well. So that does it for us on this episode of Lost Lagosians. Thank you for listening. Please go ahead and subscribe if you're not already subscribed to our channel, wherever you get your podcast. We're also on YouTube, so please go ahead and check us out on YouTube. Our channel is called Lost Lagosians on YouTube. You can also send us a message on Twitter. It's Lost Lagosians. If you'd like to be part of an upcoming episode, or you'd like to interact with us, go ahead and send an email to lostlagosians@gmail.com. Again, I want to thank you for your time, for your support, and for listening. And we'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye now.